a Noble Media Group member.
The world is very different now, for man holds in his mortal hands the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life.
6,000 years ago, man invented the wheel. 5,000 years later, he invented the printing press. 460 years later, he would fly. 70 years later, he would step on the moon. And 8 years later, he would send a spacecraft beyond our solar system. Today, we have computers which can think for themselves and robots that can dance. Properly utilized, today's technologies can bring an end to poverty, hunger, and even the need to work, or to make bombs that will end all life on Earth. Will we destroy ourselves or come together?
It is now 85 seconds to midnight. This is the closest the world has ever been to midnight.
Join Joe Carvin as he explores these questions, because mankind is on the hinge of history.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hinge of History. This is Brian Mistro. I'm here with my friend Joe Carvin. Apologize for us not having a show this last Monday, I believe it was. As you can probably tell, everyone, I've got a bit of a cold, and so I don't have much of a voice here. So I'm probably going to let Joe do most of the talking today. But it's a good show, and I think what we're doing today, Joe, is trying to continue our discussion on kind of the basics of AI and understanding the different aspects of that, so people are more informed about where we're at. And when we start diving into some more complicated discussions, we can always refer back to this if folks want to look back and say, okay, this is where we're at right now as a world with AI. So with that said, Joe, it's good to see you again, my friend.
Good to see you. Hope you're feeling better. I'm glad to see you're feeling a little bit better. And yes, exactly right, Brian. We're trying to build the building blocks. Any average Joe is going
Right.
to need to understand this dramatic transformation of the global world and global economy. And again, I don't profess to be an expert. So what we're trying to do is bring experts to you. So you may remember that with Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA, we talked about the four different types of AI: perception AI, generative AI. Now last time we talked about agentic AI and physical AI. So generative AI was ChatGPT, transformed everything.
Mm.
Agentic AI is where the AI starts to take on increasing powers to the point where you can set them off to do something, they'll do it for you. Again, you've heard me say this before. McKinsey CEO says we got 60,000 employees, 35,000 human beings, and 25,000 agents. And then the next what they're working on now is what they call physical AI, or AI that runs the robots. We talked about that a little bit last time as well. But that conversation primarily revolves around the models, the LLMs, right? What Jensen Huang has been talking about is the largest infrastructure built out in human history. This is not Joe Carvin. Jensen Huang. My
Yeah.
wife says you're giving the hyperbole, and I am. But Jensen Huang says we're about to go through the largest infrastructure build out in human history. That is confirmed. I love the word look at the stock market. It's a wonderful window to the future. Goldman Sachs recently published a report that we're gonna spend 7.8
That's
trillion
crazy.
dollars between 2026 and 2031. So
That's
what's
crazy.
happening? The infinity economy, the economy of sustainable superabundance is getting built. Whether we like it or not, it's getting built. It's getting built in front of our eyes. No better window to that than the stock market. We'll talk about in future sessions. But today I want to talk about the AI stack, or the AI factory, as Jensen Wang calls it. And it's a 5-layer cake. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask you, Brian, to share the video
Okay.
with our viewers so you can hear direct again from Jensen Wong. He's going to talk about the 5 distinct layers.
And he breaks it down very good. Let's go ahead, if that's okay. We'll just go ahead and play it right now, Joe.
When you think about AI, you think about the AI models. But it's really important to understand industrially, AI is actually essentially a 5-layer cake. At the bottom is energy. AI, because it's processed in real time and it generates intelligence in real time, it needs energy to do so. Energy is the first layer. The second layer is the layer that I live in. It's chips and computing infrastructure. The next layer above it is the cloud infrastructure, the cloud services. The layer above that is the AI models. This is where most people think AI is. But don't forget that in order for those models to happen, you have to have all of the layers underneath it. But the most important layer, and this is the layer that's happening right now, the reason why last year was an incredible year, frankly, for AI, is that the AI models made so much progress that the layer above it, which is ultimately the layer that we all need to succeed, the application layer above that. And so this application layer could be in financial services, it could be in healthcare, it could be in manufacturing. This layer on top ultimately is where economic benefit will happen. But the important thing, though, because this computing platform requires all of the layers underneath it, it has started, and everybody's seeing it right now, it has started the largest infrastructure build out in human history. We're now a few $100 billion into it. That's it. We're a few $100 billion into it. Larry and I, we get the opportunity to work on many projects together. There are trillions of dollars of infrastructure that needs to be built out. And it's sensible. It's sensible because all of these contexts have to be processed so that the models can generate the intelligence necessary to power the applications that ultimately sit on top.
That's a really good breakdown. It was interesting to me, if I can just throw out one perception. He threw the energy infrastructure in first, the power to support everything else. And without, I'm taking it that he's kind of making it out in my mind is almost like a pyramid, to where we've got to have the energy infrastructure, and we've got to have the chips, and then we've got to have what everybody considers AI, and the programming. And so each one of those is built on the other, but it was the energy infrastructure that he started with first.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise you, though, does it, Joe?
No, well, look, no, it doesn't. And again, well, we can talk a little bit now and more some later on. Really, the two big super giants in terms of technologies is China and the United States. And ultimately, what's happening here is we're turning electricity into tokens. We're taking energy or electricity and turning it into AI. Okay. And each layer of the cake is essential to that transformation. But you're 1,000% correct. In fact, basically, what Jensen Wong is saying, we all think of AI as kind of ChatGPT,
Hmm.
these as a clever app. But he explains this is one of the most powerful forces shaping the world today. It's not just the app, it's essential infrastructure like electricity and internet, right?
Right.
As I mentioned before, he says it's the largest infrastructure built out in human history. And well, really, what's driving this is again the Chat GBT moment was transformative for humanity. And I guess again, prior to the generative AI, which is what Chat GPT did, it's the first time in human history that AI understands unstructured information. It can look at an image, read text, or listen to sound and reason about it.
Hmm.
In fact, what Jensen Wang says, AI is software that doesn't need to write software. You don't write AI, you teach AI, right? And so that's why you need this big physical build out underneath. In fact, he says it's much more like a factory, right, than an LLM as we think about it. And so he's talking about these AI factories, which I find to be, and again, Elon talks about, because you have these software skills, and that's one set of skills, but Elon knows how to do hardware as well as software.
Right.
So he and Jensen have a competitive advantage. And so you're right, it starts with energy. And ultimately, as we all know, these data centers consume huge swaths
Yeah.
of energy. Now, if we look at China and the United States, China produces well over 75, 80% of our global solar capacity.
Yeah.
And they produce twice as much energy as we do, even though the economy is smaller. So China has a huge comparative advantage on the energy. And I was just in London, as we talked about, at a conference on the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship. And the UK electricity costs, because of their green strategies, has put them at a huge competitive disadvantage.
Hmm.
Because now their electricity is 30% more costly.
Hmm.
And so they haven't done it smartly like the Chinese have with building the solar. So at the end of the day, their policies have left Britain with 30%. You can't compete,
Right.
not
Right.
in the AI space. So energy and your capacity to generate more and more energy, and cheap energy, and then obviously clean energy is going to be an incredibly important first layer. And all layers are important, but this first layer is going to be critically important in terms of your capacity to compete with AI. Without that, it's going to be tough. And that's where China has a competitive advantage. Oops, sorry. That's where China has a competitive advantage. Oh, there goes my screen. That's where China has, I got excited. That's where China has a big competitive advantage on the energy space. And that's why so many of these data centers are moving to Saudi Arabia and Middle East. I'm thrilled to see that Saudi Arabia is moving from, terrorism to AI.
I
There's
didn't
a
I didn't know that they were moving to the
Oh
Middle
yeah,
East. I
right.
did not know that.
Yeah, in February 2025, I think no, it was no, sorry, no, well, that in 2025, actually, I think it was November 2025. Look, I know people are not big fans of Donald Trump, but he does some good things and not so good things. One of the really good things he did was organize this AI conference in Saudi Arabia. And ultimately, it was fantastic. And again, they're taking advantage of their cheap energy.
Hmm.
So there's huge. Jensen Wang was there, Elon, all the top AI guys were there, along with the US, and they're all building data centers there. So the second big layer is chips.
Right.
And this is where NVIDIA competes. I'm just learning more about this. I understand there's two types of chips. There's the TSMC, which has the foundry, has the basic chips, and then NVIDIA takes those chips and puts a whole bunch of software on them and makes it much more
Hmm.
productive, et cetera, et cetera. But the second area is chips. The U.S. has a big competitive advantage when it comes to chips vis-a-vis China, or so Jensen Wang says. Now, the third one's really interesting. As you know, Brian, and as you know, my friend, good friend Bill, our good friend Bill, you and I are all committed to good government.
That's right.
And so a data center, well, as Jensen Wang says, in China, you can build a hospital over a weekend. And the US, these data centers are just huge fights.
Yeah.
Fights. Who are they going to put them? Who's going to be there? Who's not going to be there? It takes 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
That's why Elon went to space.
Yeah.
Elon's going to build his space, his data centers in space. Hopefully that will work. But anyway, so the infrastructure build out, the data centers is another second critical component, which is very much geopolitical, right?
Hmm.
And then you have the models. So the models are, you have the LLMs, obviously, Claude,
Yeah.
OpenAI, XAI, ChatGPT. So those are the models, and that's what we traditionally think of as AI. But one important thing to understand, and I'm trying to get a better handle on this, is that there are two types of LLMs, if you will, or AI, as we traditionally think of it. One is open source, and the other is closed source. So
Hmm.
all the big US companies is closed source, it's proprietary information, proprietary knowledge. But DeepSeek and the Chinese models are primarily open source. That means anybody can have access to it whenever they want. So this is going to be a real interesting debate going forward. So again, Jensen's of the view that we're way ahead on the closed AI, but behind on the open AI. And again, that's an interesting conversation. We'll do some more research on it. Come back to you on layer 4, an open source versus closed source. On the one hand, again, Eric Schmidt's telling us on the one hand, open source, it's more democratic, if you will, available to the public. The downside is anybody can access it. And one of the big risks I see with AI is, the bad actors, right?
Right.
If you get a bad actor accessing the open source, it could be problematic. So we'll do some more work on that. And then the fifth layer is the one that's really exploding, is the applications. So you have this AI factory culminates in application. How are you going to use the AI? And that's where all the time and effort is being put in right now, right? You and I can develop an application of the AI, and so that's where the next big investments are going to come. But as I said, Goldman Sachs is saying there's going to be 7-8 trillion. And just for our audience, remember, it takes 11 days to count to a million, 31 years to count to a billion, and 31,000 years to count to a trillion. So these are ginormous numbers. So that's the stack. Now, and again, one of the things we're doing at One World that we'll invite people to participate in, each stack has a number of companies, right, that are competing in that space.
Right.
So what I'm doing, I'm really excited about it, and I want to show you, Brian. I'm creating a new class, online class, to use my stock market and analytical capabilities to analyze the companies in each layer. Because remember that stock market's a treasure trove of information. When Elon did SpaceX, he had to publish a 161-page report. He's got to come to the market every 3 months to tell you what he's doing with SpaceX.
Right.
How successful is he doing? Well, so the stock market, I think, is the best window to the future. There's no better learning tool than the stock market. And again, if you're looking at each of these companies, we'll talk more about in the future at each level, and you do a Wall Street analysis of each companies, you'll really have a good, because you're hearing from Elon, you're hearing from Jensen, you're hearing from the top guys. They have to come to you, put together their plan every 3 months. They have to put together their quarterly results and their plan for the future, how well they're doing, how well they're not doing. And of course, the market trades off that.
Right.
But from a future ready perspective, I think that's something that's very exciting. And then the last thing, we've talked about this a little bit in the past, but the last thing I wanted to talk about and get your take on this, because I had a big argument with my AI last night. so okay. Those of you who follow us, Moore's law has been held since 1965. Moore's law is the idea that computing capacity doubles every 2 years at the same price. That law is held since 1965, more or less. In fact, the CEO of Intel in 2015 explained that if a Volkswagen car had been transformed in the same manner, go 300,000 miles an hour, get 2 million miles to the gallon, it would cost 4 cents. That's the future. Now, so ultimately, that was Moore's law, and if you look out over a decade, doubling every 2 years, that's a 32-fold increase over 10 years, over a decade, right, because of the compounding.
Right.
What's happening now is I did some research last night. AI computes doubling every 6 months. Now, if it doubles every 6 months, let me take off my glasses for effect. If it doubles every 6 months, that's a million-fold increase in compute capacity. A million-fold in the next 10 years, over 10 years, a million-fold increase. Hello. Now, as I did the research, obviously that's mind-boggling, but as I did the research, I realized and the reason we're talking about the 5 layers of the AI, it's not physically possible. You can't build out the data centers in time. You can't get the infrastructure in place. So that's where this 5-layer cake is very useful. Mathematically, the software can do it, right?
Right.
However, there's no way that the whole 5-layer cake can be built up. So in the next 10 years of that. But what we are thinking about, so I asked me, okay, what's your best guess? And the best guess went from a 3,000 fold increase to a 25,000 fold increase over the next 10 years. 3,000 from 32 to 3,000. Make it easy. From 32 to 5,000 fold increase. Hello. I'm sorry. We're not ready for a 5,000 fold increase in AI compute. Nowhere near. But where I got into the debate with my AI is we're creating what I like to believe is the infinity economy. The infinity economy is there's a concept out there because ultimately we're going to need to change our mindset. But ultimately, for the last 200 years, be it Marxism or free enterprise economy, the study of economics is a study of distribution of scarce resources. We're moving into a post-scarcity world. In fact, I would argue abundance is here. Now, we haven't even talked about quantum compute yet.
Mhm.
Quantum compute is going to add, it's just like a following wind. So a 5,000 fold increase and a following wind. And now there's synergies between AI and quantum compute. So basically, the big challenge in quantum compute is the error rate. But they're applying AI to quantum to reduce the error rate. So they're 5 years ahead of schedule. And the problem with the LLM, as they train the LLMs, there's not enough human information. The whole human information is not enough anymore. So now what they have to do is they need synthetic data. The quantum provides the synthetic data. So there's this synergies. So 5,000 fold increase in AI compute, and then quantum computing, and quantum computing is much narrower. So they can do in minutes what the traditional computers need billions of years to do. But it's a narrower scientific application. But the beauty of it, we'll talk about quantum computers more fully in the future. In fact, I'll invite some of my friends who know quantum very well. But the bottom line is narrower, but it's scientific. So we're going to get new materials. Fusion finally is going to happen. So I believe that my argument with my AI was we're building the infinity economy. We've got to move past this scarcity mindset. We should be talking about a month. And they say, no, you're full of blown. So 2 hour fight with I once saw which AI was. But the guy's like, what are you talking about? It's right here for you to see. I said, your problem is your damn AI. And this is where the human value comes in. Their perspective. I said, how many people have you convinced that there's a world of sober? And in fact, but we were able to agree. In fact, actually, let me ask you a question. And well, I'll tell you what they came on and see if you concur. So I said, okay. And I do this all the time. You know, as Brian, as you know, we talk about sustainable superabundance. And we define that as a world without poverty, hunger, disease, and the need to work. Now, what percentage of the general population is talking about sustainable superabundance?
Oh, what, less than 1 millionth of a percent or something? I mean,
Right? No one.
yeah.
No one. And that's my point to the AI. Listen, we need a new concept. I love this concept of infinity economy. I just love the concept, right? They're saying like, well, you're acting as if it's a done deal. No, not at all. The next 10 years, let's be 1,000. Everybody thinks I'm like an optimist. No, I'm an alarmist. I'm saying I'm a weatherman. I'm saying it's coming, ladies and gentlemen. You're not ready.
Mm.
You are not ready. We need to get ready, as you well know. In fact, I can give you a hint which when I was having because I said your boss just issued a call for a pause in AI development. Why did he do that? As you know, that's in profit, right?
Yep,
So
yep, I do. Yes.
anyway, I mean, so I'm just really excited about this 5 layer cake using the stock market to really analyze it acutely. And we'll do that in these sessions going forward, Brian. I can't wait to bring some of our stock market thinking and theories into this because again, I believe there's no better window to the future than the stock market because every day, and by the way, you got millions of investors up and down, voting up or down. Did it go or didn't
Yeah.
go? What's happening? And I've been a big bear. In fact, I think I did tell you. Yes, we talked a little bit about this. I'm talking a little bit more because I'm trying to give you a but there's one of the other learning tools for me is YouTube. And so how is it a learning tool? Well, I'm interested in AI. So anything that happens in AI, I get a YouTube, algorithm sending it my way.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm interested in is the U.S. horrific debt situation we've talked about. We'll talk about that on the other shows. But ultimately, I've been very cautious and negative on the U.S. stock market because I've never been able to figure out when this debt problem I've been talking about for a decade is finally going to blow.
Yeah, the bubble.
And I'm finally, along with Elon, and I don't know if you saw Doge was eliminated the other day, but I'm finally, Elon is and I are both of the view, yes, is bankrupt. And the only solution is accelerated growth. So to grow, accelerated growth, much far happier, more than we. So for the first time in several years, I'm somewhat bullish in the stock market, and it doesn't seem to what happens in Iran, what happens in
Hmm.
the stock market doesn't come down because I think there's a consensus that this AI is real, that the $7.8 trillion invested is going to be real, and we've got you and I right here, Brian, on this show have courtside seats.
Front side, that's right.
Phenomenal. I mean, there's never been a more exciting time to be alive, never been an exciting time to be young, and we want to make it happen. Let's go out there and celebrate an infinity economy, sustainable abundance, where without poverty, hunger, disease, and the need to work.
I'll throw out one comment for those that have watched me, and hopefully I can keep my voice this whole time. But I've been an alarmist from the beginning of AI, and yet after kind of watching the video today, and certainly our shows over the last few times, I'm less so, and that's because I think a lot of people are going to lose the job that they have, but they can replace it with something that would be even more needed, and that is instead of doing the work, working with companies to show them how AI can do the work and how it can benefit them. And I think that their skills that they have built up until that point would be very beneficial for them. So I see an entirely new industry outside of what we're already talking about growing, almost like a national or worldwide consultant type of group. And I think that's exciting. I kind of curious of your take, and then I know we got to go, but is that what you see too? Is that this will
I think,
actually birth a lot of new jobs that people just don't know about yet?
yes, 100%. Again, so far, the dramatic job losses people have talked about have not yet occurred. I don't have a view one way or another. I don't know. I think we need to be very careful. We need to be paying attention to this. But what's enormously clear is the type of jobs people do today are fundamentally different than they're going to be in the future. So there's going to be a huge transition, regardless whether you have big unemployment or not. I can't tell you.
Hmm.
What I can tell you is you're going to have a huge transition to a different type of job, exactly the kind of job you're talking about, or the job I'm talking about, where I'm in one small narrow area, I'm smarter than my AI. I was talking about politics. I said, what office did you run for? But I will say this: it's we don't. I'm not. I just want to be 1,000% clear. I'm not yet an optimist. I guess I would. I think we need to be cautious. You shouldn't abandon. I wouldn't be an alarmist. I think we need to be cautionary. And I think we are going to experience significant disruption, and we need to plan for that. In other words, I'm an optimist that about. I'm an optimist anyway. I'm an optimist about humanity. I'm an optimist about what we can do. I'm an optimist about the potential. But again, there's huge downside risks as well. So that's
Hmm.
why we really need to pay attention to this. That's why we're devoting the time to this, Brian. I can't thank you enough for helping make this program a reality.
I have fun with this program. I would do it for free, even if I had to work on 3 jobs on the weekend to make it work. And I'm learning a lot too. I mean, honestly, from you, I'm learning a lot. I guess the one thing that we want to do to those that are watching this is share it with your friends, and with people, because um, our reasons for doing this, Joe, are to try to prepare and educate humanity, not Americans, not China or Europeans, but all of humanity. Because if whether you're watching this show or not, it's going to affect you. It's coming, right? I mean, it's as you keep saying, as you said just today, it's coming, and we're not prepared for it. And I'm hopeful that with all the effort and stuff that you've done and we're trying to do here, that we can get Hannity at least a little bit more prepared for it. And that's, I think, one of our main goals. Everyone, I want to say thank you again for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's what you're watching this from right now, at least at this moment. If you are watching it on another social media platform, I will just tell you that it's being moved very quickly from not just being on YouTube, but to being on other social media platforms. So it may be getting restreamed elsewhere. That will be happening this week, but subscribe to it. Ask Joe a question. I mean, we don't have all the answers, but we'll read the question out loud. We'll talk about it. We'll try to come up with some type of a consensus if we can. And you don't just get this program. You've got Restoring the American Dream. You've got the Thursday Thoughts. You've got a lot of other programming and new stuff actually that we're going to be adding as well. So please subscribe to our channel, like it, leave some questions. As always, Joe, it's a pleasure with everything you do, and thank you, my friend. And we will see everybody again, God willing, on Monday. So thank you again. Thanks, Joe. Thank you, everybody.
You've been watching Joe Carvin's Hinge of History. The No Bull Media Group is available on all major social media platforms. Make sure to give us a follow where you can watch this show and many others.
A No Bull Media Group member.